Welcome to another edition of WorldView, and our guest for today's episode is the Ambassador of Finland, Ms. Ritva Koukku-Ronde, and welcome to the show. I'd like to just get things started off by, we were discussing just before we started the interview about how COVID has changed diplomacy, and it's not very easy to have meetings, and it's not very easy to have interactions. But how do you plan to take forward, the relationship with India, and are there any new areas that you're looking at?
Thank you for interviewing me. It's great pleasure, and it's of course great pleasure and honor to work for India-Finland relations. Yes, indeed, COVID has changed a lot actually, and very rapidly. Our lifestyle, our way of working, our economies, very many deep changes. And I think one of the lessons learned and what we all diplomats needed to do is to adjust our way of working, and we are working very much virtually. It's of course, in diplomacy you need really face-to-face discussions, and you need to build your relations also on trust. And it's a little bit challenging on virtually, but it's possible. And that is the way how we mainly are working at the moment, since we are not able to travel, and we have to be, of course, very cautious and respect of the rules of India, of course, and in the COVID situation, and also our own rules. One of the areas which definitely will change and has already put very much forward is the digitalization in all kind of forms. And if I look the possibilities to increase and enhance and deepen our relations, you can find it in digital, in all sort of digital world, whether it is digital health, whether it's digital manufacturing, whether it is digital platforms, digital energy, smart way of doing things. And this is something which is really deeply increasing. The other thing is, of course, that we shouldn't be blind to the fact that there are some other challenges at the moment. And at this moment, I'm a little bit concerned that the real threat to humankind, namely the climate change, is a little bit put backwards. But here again, this is a great challenge and great opportunities actually to look how do we build the future growth and welfare also very green. And this is something which I'm looking very much forward in enhancing also, not only in bilateral relations, but especially between the European Union and India. We have we had a very good summit last summer. There is a very good plan of action for the year 2025, and very strong emphasis on green economy.
Going specifically to the issue of COVID, are you looking at working with India specifically on countering the pandemic between the two countries? There's a lot of talk about India possibly playing a big role in the manufacturing of vaccines. Is that something that you have been looking at?
First of all, of course, we admire the India way of tackling the COVID. Of course, this huge country has also huge challenges. And the way how India has been turning the medicine manufacturing and also manufacturing in all kind of medical equipments, protection, etc., has been really very, very amazing. We have had already pharmaceutical cooperation with India, and very many generic medicine is already imported to Finland, and there is that kind of a cooperation. There is somewhat cooperation in medical devices, but I think that could be an area where we could look a little bit deeper because we have also some know-how on that. And one of the unutilized maybe is our incredible biobanks in Finland. We are the only country who is having a sort of generic biobanks combined with the personal medical history of the persons. Of course, unidentified, but that is something which might be able to be used in a big data that India has. So we are looking at this kind of possibilities, and of course the development and India's involvement in various sort of vaccine projects, we are looking with great interest, because of course we all need vaccines, we all need proper treatment possibilities. And of course, like pandemic, like COVID is a global issue, we are globally together in this struggle to find good medicine, to find good vaccinations, and to get the solutions as soon as possible. And of course, we are very much looking forward on very close cooperation with India.
Sure. The COVID has also exposed a lot of issues globally. There are fault lines, whether it's economic or security. There is a greater focus on the Indo-Pacific. What is your country's perspective on all these security issues, and which have a lot of ramifications, not only for the region, but globally?
Of course, we are part of the European Union, and we are part of the global community, and we are trusting strongly on multilateral cooperation. And I think also pandemic has shown very strongly that we need a very strong multilateral cooperation and also rule-based order.
Yeah.
And this kind of crisis can be sort of not only as a challenging for, let's say, international peace and security, but it can be also an opportunity to make changes. And I hope that we are able, as an international community, to sort of tackle and take this possibility to really make changes also, and looking to some of the conflicts what we are having in a manner that we find peaceful solutions as well.
You mentioned conflicts, and also Secretary Pompeo's recent visit has put a lot of focus again on the region. Do you worry sometimes that maybe the conflicts that you refer to, maybe even something like the India-China border thing, could spread, could flare up, because it would have ramifications?
Of course, we are following carefully what is happening around the world, and we are concerned of some of the issues. And of course, when it is conflict or when it is dispute, of course, we always want that there is possibility for negotiations, possibility to sit down and have a dialogue. And it's much better to have this sort of dialogue than let conflicts escalate more. And there again, we strongly believe again on sort of conflict prevention before the conflicts are really getting sort of escalating too far.
Sure.
Furthermore, it is really also calculated that the conflict prevention is a smart thing to do, because it's much cheaper to invest early stage than to solve the situations afterwards.
Sure. Coming back to, again, the trade and maybe business relations, one of the issues that India has really focused on with the European nations is the mobility of its professionals. There have been some concerns about the time that is being taken now for processing work permits, and there is a feeling that this is delaying the movement of professionals and affecting decision making. Is your country working on this issue? Because obviously Indian professionals are valued everywhere.
We are working actually very hard on this issue, because we are really a country who is trusting on sort of free movement of people and free movement of goods and services as well. We are very open society and very dependent on export and trade, international trade. So this is hitting very hard, of course, us as a country, and all sort of very export-oriented countries are hit by this. We don't have a direct flight to Finland at the moment between Finland and India. We used to have before COVID. We have a magnificent connection because it's only 7 hours from New Delhi to Helsinki to fly. Last year we made a record with Indian tourists to Finland, 100,000 overnights in the hotels, and we were looking forward very much to welcome even double or triple. And we have had really a promotion also for Indian students, Indian experts. And at the moment actually we are having we are concentrating on 2 programs. One program called Talent Boost, which is really attracting people to Finland to work or to study. And the other one is a webinar. Now, since we are not able to do any seminars, but it's a sort of 7-series webinar on future made in Finland.
Sure.
And that is exactly also to give sort of facts and the picture about Finland, what we are at the moment, and how we are doing. What are interesting areas like artificial intelligence or quantum experts?
Would you be looking at something like 5G also?
5G, 6G, because we are already 6G. And then also, of course, clean technology and energy. We are one of the leaders on clean solutions. And then also bio solutions, meaning forest products in replacing.
I'll just come back to climate change in a little bit, but you mentioned students. I think Finland has about 1,000 Indian students, and there are plans to internationalize your education system. What would this mean? And are you looking at, although now with COVID things have been impacted, but would you be looking at getting more Indian students in?
Yes, these 2 programs I mentioned are really trying to attract more Indian students, and we are also in our legislation now. We are doing very rapid work on sort of making the legislation sort of more open, in the sense that we are able to smoothen the procedures. We are more having, for instance, D-visas, which we haven't had that opportunity, and looking also the sort of time of our procedures as well when smoothing the procedures. And we are also at the moment, although there are restrictions still going on, we are looking very much on the possibility that instead of 14 days quarantine, that we could have sort of double negative COVID entrance to Finland, would smoothen also.
This is an issue that some of the students have been mentioning, that some of the ones who have got new admissions or relatives of people who have work permits, it's a bit difficult for them to visit right now.
It's impossible almost to visit at the moment, and that is due to the fact that we haven't opened our migration services.
Yes.
We are opening now, trying to open slowly. We have outsourced some part of this work to a VFS company, and they are also slowly now opening. So we are also a little bit dependent on that. But then at the same time, of course, we have to respect all the rules and regulations as to the health of our customers and as to the health of our employers. So that is something which we are not able to start one day with the masses, but we are working on that very strongly, and we hope that during November, now in coming month, we are able to really start slowly with and then we are looking at how do we build it. And at the same time we are working on this track on legislative measures which would smoothen, and it looks pretty good in a sense, but I would actually appeal to, and I appeal with my tweets sometimes and with our messages, and that please be a little bit patient at the moment. We are all living in a very strange times, and we do our best what we can do. And at the same time, of course, we hope very much that the international commercial flights would start one day.
Yeah.
There is no, at the moment, as you know, that there are no international commercial flights due to the various sort of restrictions.
Have you considered an air bubble sort of arrangement? Has that been looked at?
No, actually, I think the fact is that there is not yet enough commercial. There is too many restrictions still, because we are not yet allowing actually nobody, tourists, to come to our country. So there are limitation on the tourism.
One of the issues that has been very strongly taken up by your country, as you mentioned, is climate change and the circular economy. And when one looks at it, I mean, the countries are quite a distance. And is there really? And I mean, given the kind of size and scope of India, and it's much larger a country than Finland. But do you think there are viable ways that the two sides can work on climate change? Any specific issues?
Oh, definitely. Like I said, I think that this is a very good chance now to use all the new investments, for instance, looking them green. My government is at the moment doing that. Everything what we are doing, we go through the sustainable sort of lenses, and looking that it is sustainable, not only, of course, ecologically, but also socially and economically. We are aiming our country. We are aiming the 2035 that we would be the first fossil-free welfare state.
Sure.
And I would say that, of course, small country maybe has smaller problems, but we have very intensive paper industry and forest industry, for instance, who needs a lot of energy, and our weather conditions are such that we need a lot of energy as well. But we are able to do it, and I trust that everybody is able to do it. But then it needs investments. It needs, of course, strong political will.
Legislation.
It needs legislation, of course. It needs sort of companies, private sector, being with in these. Very many of our companies have been working already some decades in India, and they have, and with Indian companies actually, they are making India companies, and they have very good solutions for various sort of clean solutions, whether it is in energy, renewable energy, whether it is looking for using various sort of biomaterial, waste to energy, but also, for instance, in developing from staple, for instance, textile or material, fiber using replacing plastics. Various sort of methods, smart energy grids, using technology in a sense, 5G, 6G, and all the fiber networks in using sort of sustainable solutions in that. And there are incredible interesting cooperation going on already, but how to scale them up then.
Sure.
Also. We are, for instance, now building the first biorefinery in Assam with Indian Chempolis, and it is joint venture, and hopefully that will bring some of the solutions also using bio, this time bamboo, but using biomaterial in energy production. So there are really several ways of doing things
in a green way.
way.
Ambassador, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you very much for your interest.